Sorry, guys.
Okay. Okay, we can go ahead. Okay, is there federal or state funding available for subsidized housing in Mansfield?
Yes. So there definitely is. The Housing Authority, Eagleville Green has been funded by state and federal housing grants primarily. The Department of Housing, HUD, they've been very good about accessing those funds. I don't know that they're super easy to access, and that's definitely not an area that I'm an expert at, but I hope to learn more about it. But yes, there is definitely state and federal funding available for that.
Okay, and people are actively pursuing that funding in the town. Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry, some of your terms I wasn't sure of. So
Sure. Yep,
I'm a violinist, so I'm sorry. Deed restricted just means that it has to stay at that price for a certain number of years.
Yes. So a deed, are any of you familiar with conservation easements or restrictions?
Well,
Yeah. Barbara is. She has one on her property. So basically, it's something that is on the land records that says it would have the terms, and it would say this unit is to remain affordable. It must be occupied by individuals who are at or below 80% or 60% or whatever AMI. So it's on the land records. And so basically what it is it's attached to your deed. So when someone comes to buy your property, it's there. A title searcher would come up with that. And any realtor should be making you aware of that. But yeah, so it goes right with the land records.
Okay, so it basically means that you can't raise the price of it.
Right. I mean, yes, that has to be monitored though, right? It's not to say that people might have that and not know that they have that deed restriction, and so be doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So, but yes, that means that they do not have the right, and it could be that right does not come with their land or their property.
Okay. AMI stands for what?
Area median income. Sorry.
Okay.
Yep. I defined it, but I went really quickly because I
missed it. Sorry.
It's okay. I talk quickly.
So I think you said that we have about 2,760 people that should qualify for affordable housing in Mansfield, but we only have about 397 units of affordable housing in Mansfield. Is that true? Did I get that right?
Let me see. I'm going through my PowerPoint. What did I? Yes. So as of 2010, we had the total units. We had about 6,000 units in Mansfield, and a total of 397 units. So, and then if you look at the data again, so yes, it says there are 2,760 households in Mansfield who meet the definition of low income. Mm-hmm. So they meet that definition. And as I said, many of them may be students. I mean, not many of them, but a good portion of them may be students. So that data in Mansfield is skewed. But yes, it's clear that we do not have enough inventory. We don't have enough affordable housing units. And I would think that that would be in any community. That's statewide, nationwide. It's a big problem.
It's just good for us to have an idea of the numbers, I think.
Yep.
And what is a workforce unit? What does that mean?
So that's defined as a unit that would be affordable by someone who's making under 120% of area median income. So
that could be people like assistant professors.
Yeah, or our teachers,
They're making enough to live on, but it's not rich money, rich people money.
The only other comment, what was I going to say? I mean, I did a little math, and somebody making minimum wage, if they worked 52 weeks, I mean, yeah, 50, if they worked every day during the year, 40 hours a week, they would make a little under $30,000 a year. So 30% of that would be about $725. Do we even have any units in town that rent for that?
I think some of the affordable, what we call the affordable units, or our Section 8 housing. Yep. So if you look at the, this is better data. It says that they do the Partnership for Strong Communities does something what they call a housing wage, and they're saying that you have to make $23.65 an hour in order to afford housing in Mansfield. So that I'm not quite articulating that very well, because I think it would be a family of two maybe would have to make that, but I have to drill down. I'm happy to share with Monica some of these handouts, and as well as links to our affordable housing plan, which will give you more information than you ever wanted to know about.
Well, I don't know if it's more than we need, but another question, all the fee in lieu of that people are paying, what exactly do we do with that money?
So we have not spent any of that yet. And actually we don't have that cash in hand yet, because it won't be until the standard at Four Corners is built that we get that.
Oh, yeah.
So for all the multifamily housing that goes in, we will be getting either we'll be getting the affordable units on site, or we'll be getting that fee in lieu. So that's going to go into our trust fund, which was established by the town council last December. And it's very prescriptive what you can do with that money. And I'm just going to pull up the ordinance. So it's broad, but yet it's specific. We can use the funds to retain and create affordable housing, and that's affordable housing is tied to the state definition of that. We can use it to acquire development rights, easements, deed restrictions, options, or rights therein. So those are a lot of the things that we talked about, those deed restrictions, so that it's tied to the land records and then they can live there. We can use it for acquisition, construction, rehabilitation, repair, fees, and maintenance costs relating to parcels of land. We can use it to actually administer the fund and associated activities. We can use it to prepare our plan, which we would be required to do by state statute. And then we can, and then we basically have to make sure that whatever we're using those funds for, it's actually going to be tied to affordable units. So if you go to that ordinance, it's pretty prescriptive, and that's the charge of one of the main charges of the Affordable Housing Committee that has not yet met, is to administer that affordable housing, the funds from that affordable housing trust, and develop policies, prioritize the funding, develop an application so that if folks want to apply to use that funds, then they can.
That is a lot to absorb.
Yeah, I do have one more question, but it's kind of a personal one, and it was about those units, accessory dwelling units. Is that a new thing?
So accessory dwelling units are not new things, but they are the ability to easily build them in Mansfield is a new thing. So it used to be, so when you're working with planning and zoning, if it depends on how easy it is to get approval. Right now, we've changed our regulations, and so you can build an accessory dwelling unit by just coming to Jolene Woodmansee, our zoning agent, and getting a zoning permit. You do, in order to get that zoning permit, you do have to meet certain requirements. You have to prove that you have adequate septic and water. You have the dimensional, the area on your lot, like you, it's not going to be right up next to your neighbor's house. That you're not building it in a wetland. And then, as I said before, you have to also put a deed restriction on the land records that says that you or someone who owns that property will live there for more than 6 months of the year, because we want to make sure that it's owner occupied. And then there's size restrictions and a few occupancy restrictions, like I think 2 people and up to and children, and maybe 1, but you'd have to read the regulations. I don't have them memorized, but happy to share them with you. But those are cool. They're kind of like a lot of the tiny houses you're seeing, you know,
Yeah.
that it's like all the rage. So
Well, we were looking at putting a granny pot out for our mother-in-law, for my mother-in-law, but I think it wasn't possible 3 years ago when we wanted to do it.
right, because they had to be attached, and now
Yeah.
they can be detached. But a granny pod is an accessory dwelling unit,
So yeah, now you could do it, but now it's too late. So,
provided you meet all the
Right,
the other
right.
requirements. Yep.
and is there any senior housing included with the affordable housing?
Meaning, are there are there specific affordable housing units dedicated just to seniors?
Yeah, I thought when they did downtown stores that they were going to include senior affordable housing, and that I don't think that happened there.
There is none at downtown stores, but Wrights Village and also Juniper Hill, those are
okay.
a senior affordable housing. Yeah.
But no plans to build more.
Not immediately. There's a lot of, we hear from a lot of people that they would love to see that.
Mhm.
Getting the interest from a developer to actually do that is another story. But you know, if I think we've heard from a lot of people, the town council, planning and zoning, that they would really like to see more of that. It's just there's only so much we can do as a town without, you know, if we got a huge grant, many millions of dollars, I think people would like to build it, but it's challenging. You know, ideally we'd like to see a market for that, but you know, I meet with developers very frequently, and I always talk about either senior housing or small lot single family housing, or you know, cottage style housing, and there just doesn't seem to be interest. So we try to talk about it, but ultimately the developer has to build it.
suggest that you need to give that a couple of more years, because that's one of those baby boomers aging into it, and all of a sudden people will be interested, and we're not there yet, is what I'm getting a sense of.
Mhm.
Because that happens regularly with everything from the kinds of shoes you can buy to where you want to go on vacation, and it's a function of the generational cohort. So don't give up, Barbara. All right, Jen, thank you very much. Does anybody, we need to talk about what role we think Human Rights Commission can play with any of this. Well, I want play in any of this. Jen, when do you anticipate occupancy of any of these units? When do you think they'll be built?
In terms of the standard at Four Corners, well, let's see, Eagleville Green, they have talked about breaking ground in, you know, sometime in 2023, early 2023. I expect any of these things will take a good year and a half to build. The zoning permit, the standard at Four Corners, I would imagine, is going to break ground. You're going to see a lot of activity at Four Corners starting early in 2023. And that will also take about, I would think, 18 months. But you know, with all, it's taking longer all the time, but maybe these supply chain things will not be so bad, but.
Yeah, okay,
so-
because we need, if we're gonna think about what do we have to offer, we need to know when we're gonna be offering it and how long it's gonna take to get
Yeah.
there, so.
So one thing that I would recommend is that you really take a look at our affordable housing plan, because there's a lot of work and a lot of information about what the community wants in terms of affordable housing, where it would be appropriate. I mean, we got a lot of feedback from a survey. The second is I would look at the charge of the Affordable Housing Committee, because they have a very specific charge. And there's a lot of work to be done, but I wouldn't want your work to overlap with what they're supposed to be doing. And then I would, once the Affordable Housing Committee starts to meet, you may want to designate a member of the Human Rights Commission to attend one or, you know, every other meeting or every meeting. I mean, certainly your missions overlap. So, but you should, you know, get to know that committee and see where you guys can help. And it might be fundraising. I'm not sure what that will be, what that will look like, but you know, you don't want to duplicate efforts. So what I can do is I'll send Monica a whole bunch of links, and you guys can get busy reading. And we hope that the Affordable Housing Committee will begin to meet and at least have an organizational meeting by early December. My fingers crossed. We still are pretty short staffed, so but then I would just really keep an eye on what they're doing.
Okay, anybody else have any other comments or questions? Yeah, I'm just kind of like, oh, Monica, what?
I'm going to actually send you all the Affordable Housing Committee charge right now, just so that you can see what they're going to do, so we can kind of better understand what we could do to assist.
Okay, that's good, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Sabrina,
Oops,
you
I
want to say
think-
something?
Yeah, just a quick question. I was just wondering if there's a wait list for the affordable housing units, or if it's first come, first serve.
So the Mansfield Housing Authority handles that, and I do believe there is a wait list. So, but if you know of anyone or you're interested, I would definitely call the Housing Authority and learn about, you know, what it takes to get on that wait list. And they'd be happy to help you.
Good, thank you. Anybody else? All right, Jen, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for that very good presentation. I feel slightly less ignorant now, slightly more overwhelmed.
Well, thank you for having me. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Okay, we're going to go down to new business, folks, if you have the agenda in front of you. And the first one is the most pressing because it's tomorrow night. The Waking Up White program, which is a book discussion in the library that I'm running about what it means to be white in America, is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock in the library. So if you know of anybody who is curious about that subject, or if you have book groups or anybody else, please tell them about it. The library's done a really good job of publicizing it, and Margaret has done a good job of publicizing it, given everything else she has to do. So I don't have any idea how many people are going to come, but I'm guessing 10 or 12. And we're going to sit around and talk about the first half of this book, Waking Up White. 2 weeks from now, we're going to talk about the second half of the book. And if anybody wants to come, they're welcome. If they haven't read the book, they're welcome. They'll pick it up as we go. And if they want to go to the second one, but they can't go to the first one, that's fine too. My goal is just to get a conversation started. So that's my announcement on that one. We've already had anybody got any questions about that? So far, I haven't gotten any hostility, and I'm really grateful for that. Margaret, what?
I just wanted to add that, yeah, the positioning that Jane just described is the way I positioned it in another press release, that this is really a community conversation
Right.
about this topic, that the the book is not that it's ancillary to it, but that you can participate even if you haven't read the book, that you can come and be part of this conversation. And therefore, if you can make one or two or all three of them, or just one of the three, you know, that's all good. So as much as we can continue to push this out on social media would be appreciated.
Absolutely. And the third one is on November 2nd or 3rd. It's the day after Election Day. 2nd, thank you. And at that meeting, we are going to have the author of the book give her presentation called "I'm a Good Person. What do you want from me?" or something to that effect. And if people haven't read anything and they're just curious, she's a very good speaker and very engaging. So that's the third one. And that's the one we really want to have people at lots of, because we paid for that one. The other two are free. So just get that on your calendar. And if you can come, I would be grateful. It's a subject dear to my heart. And I think a lot of us need to be well informed on what it means to be white in this culture and in this community. So that's just an announcement. Okay, I got one more announcement. Meeting with Downtown Partnership. Last winter, after the whatever they called the winter holiday, a number of us became concerned because most of the decorations, it was a tree trimming contest kind of thing. And we felt that if you're going to have a winter holiday that's inclusive, you ought to do more than have a Christian symbol. So I wrote a letter to the Downtown Partnership ages ago, and the meeting to talk about what else they could do is Monday afternoon at 1:30 on Zoom. And I am going to go meet with the head of that group to talk about how to make this a more inclusive winter celebration sort of event. And if anybody else is free at 1:30 on Monday afternoon, I would really love to have somebody else there with me, because I am no place close to comprehensive and I'm very biased on this subject. So all support would be appreciated. So if you can go, let me know and we'll get you on the call. Because I just need other people's ideas. And if you have ideas and you can't come, just email me or, give me a call and tell me what you think we could do for a winter celebration that is not really religious, but includes everybody and celebrates the season. That will be really good. Okay. Margaret, we skipped over suggestion boxes because you're the one who knows about suggestion boxes. What can you tell us?
I'm happy to provide an update. I just have one question. Are you thinking, Jane, with the winter welcome, that you're looking for HRC to provide some sort of an activity or do some kind of tabling this year to enhance the winter welcome event? Is that what your aim is?
Frankly, it never crossed my mind. I just wanted to kind of open up their mind. But if you think we ought to be doing that, then we'll talk about how we could do that.
Well, I think that
do they have tables there? I didn't go, so I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, so they do invite people to exhibit and to do things to contribute to it. So I don't think that the intention ever was that this would be exclusively a Christmas event, which is why they call it a winter welcome. And so I think that there is this opportunity to celebrate all aspects of the season. And so I think that if there was an activity booth, that we wanted to do for those 3 or 4 hours, they might still be open to it. I mean, I know this is right around the corner, the first Saturday in December, but they have all kinds of folks that come in and exhibit and sponsor these booths. So I'm sure they'll explain some of that on Monday, but I just wondered if that was part of your end game, and if not for 22, for 2023, because
since I didn't know what it looked like, I have no end game at all. I just don't want to have Christmas tree decorating the only activity.
And it's not the only activity.
Okay.
It never has been. It was something that they tried to do to engage people, to do a trim a tree contest, so we could go in and represent everything but Christianity, right? I mean, on that tree. But if you think it's the fact that it's a tree that they're decorating, and that in itself makes it Christmas, it's one of the activities. So
yeah, that's kind of what I thought, but I'm more than willing to change my mind. Velda, I know you don't feel well, but are you free on Monday at 1:30? You can put it in the chat if you want to. Okay, she is
No,
just.
I'm here. No, I'm here. I
You're
have
here?
to.
Okay.
I have to check my calendar. I'm at work. I work at that time, so I'll have to see.
Your work, okay. Is there anybody else who is willing to participate in this conversation, just to hear what gets said? And kick in their ideas. Okay, well, I guess I'm on my own and I'll try not to be too biased. All right.
So suggestion box, sorry about that.
Right.
So thank you to Esme for pushing us on the QR code. I have worked with our IT department who created a jot for us. And so now we have a link. And now I can create a QR code to add to the suggestion box layout that we had on our table at the Celebrate event. So it's nice that someone could go by, hit the QR code. It'll take them to a web page where there is this open-ended question about their experiences. There's a fillable PDF that they can go in and say, this is what I am observing. There's a line for an optional name, email, or telephone number, but again, it's optional information. And they hit send. And when they hit send, that jot will be sent to an email, and we can either have it go to the HRC generic email that everybody receives, or we can have it go to one or two emails, but that can all be coordinated through IT. So this is a method that people can, scribble on a piece of paper at one of our suggestion boxes and drop it in the box. Or if they're, they'd rather do it in this method, we now have provided that method. So all I need to do is create the QR code and drop it into the layout. My intention is then to print out the poster making materials. And then I don't know if Barbara wants to continue with this or if you need some help, but if someone or someone's could then assemble these 3 or 4 physical suggestion boxes, it's going to be gluing and taping and, putting the poster stuff on these little metal boxes. They're ready, they'll be ready to go. So Barbara, did you see that jot today?
Yeah, I'm going to be on my way to Istanbul in a couple of days. So for 3 weeks, I'll be back on the day after Election Day.
Okay.
So I don't know. I really don't want to volunteer for anything right now. I'm going a little nuts.
So I don't know, if Esme or Felicia, if you have any time, I mean, it's literally like it's a craft project at this point to kind of literally glue these posters and tape them onto the boxes and then get them out to the senior center, the town hall, the community center, and the library were the 4 locations that said that they would be willing to accept them. And I would put one at E.O. Smith if you thought people would use it, if there was a safe place to put it. So anyway, it's like I said, it's just assembling those materials. So, but thank you, Esme, for pushing us on the jot. IT did it for us. I thought it looked good, didn't you, Barbara? I mean, I thought it did the trick. So
yeah.
That's the update on the boxes.
So, or Esme, are you going to do that? Felicia, are you going to do that? Or is that overwhelming?
No, I think,
too.
yeah,
I like
we can do it together.
boxes. Yeah, we can do it.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, if you can come over after school to town hall and find me in my office, I mean, I can even set you up right there in one of the conference rooms with all the tools, and you guys can just bang them out right then and there. That would be great. And then I have the keys, and then I think we just have to figure out who then is in charge of circulating to those 5 boxes, once a month and collecting any suggestions that are dropped in them. So that's a process, but we'll get them up first.
Good. Thank you. Okay, this next one is, well, it's wide open. We have been meeting on Zoom. We can continue to meet on Zoom, or we can decide we want to meet in person. Does anybody have any opinions about that?
I vote for Zoom. It's way easier to do it without having to drive somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, well, I'm withholding my vote until I find out what everybody else thinks. What does everybody else think? Monica?
Just a reminder that we can discuss it, but we can't actually vote on it because we don't have the quorum.
Right,
So
okay, well,
I
in that
think-
case, I vote for Zoom too, that I can't vote because it's so much easier. So let's just table that until the next meeting. Now the other one, and we also can't vote on this, but we need to think about it. We had two subcommittees, a committee on policy and a committee on education. And that was the structure we inherited in it. So you had 2 meetings a month. It seems to me that we are now operating as a committee on education, committee of the whole. And that's our job. And that's the first thing in our charge. And we haven't done anything on policy in a while. And I have one issue of policy that I have not managed to bring up yet, and that is town hiring and affirmative action data. So that's kind of, it's a policy procedure thing. And I'm not pressing anybody. I have had a week that is so overwhelming, I'm ready to jump off a bridge and forget I was retired. So that's kind of my frame of mind, just so you all know. But that's the only policy agenda item that I am aware of. There may be more later, but do we actually need 2 more subcommittees, or can we operate as a committee of the whole, meet once a month? And if we have specific things to do, designate people who say, yeah, I'll do that, and then they'll report back. So what's your pleasure on that?
Like that idea.
Honest to God, I do not pay this woman. So what does everybody else think?
Personally, I know it got to a point where like we couldn't hold meetings because no one was coming to the,
Right.
at least in public outreach. So if we had more people, I think it would be functional. But currently, I think it's just better to do things as a whole.
Yeah, I think you're right. And if the committee on committee ever meets, we'll have 3 more members, and then things may change. But right now, that's where we are. Yeah, Monica.
Also, as a suggestion, we could, if we wanted to keep subcommittees, because the subcommittees were actually created because you guys can't talk and create things without meeting based on freedom of information.
Oh.
So that was part of the thought behind subcommittees. What we could do is we could even hold them quarterly instead, which might mean, okay, 4 times a year we get together on these dates for sure, and we save, a few things for this. Or we could also have an ad hoc committee that meets in a special meeting capacity instead of an actual meeting structure. So those are a few of the different options.
Yeah, the one I thought of when I was thinking about this was ad hoc on an as needed basis. Because it seemed to be the most flexible.
We could also have special meetings as needed for the full commission too.
And you wouldn't, and you aren't in a position to make sure we don't do anything that's illegal, right?
Yeah, that's essentially why I'm here. So
okay. Are people willing to go with the idea of ad hoc and the main focus right now being public outreach and education? Because that seems to be what we're doing. Okay, great. All right. Next item is member reports. What wonderful things has everybody been running around doing in the face of human rights? Anything? Have you been attending events? I mean, there's been a lot of Pride stuff going on, I know. And I don't know if there are any other events. Janine, what have you been doing?
Well, it's mainly just within the schools, any opportunity that I have to, my goal is always to start with the little ones, because, and even though if they go home and share that information, that's always my biggest concern is, what do they meet when they get home? Because there's always that other, that different view. So any opportunity that I do, I take it. Even subbing one day as a teacher. As a para, sometimes you get called to be a teacher as a sub. And there was a book, there was a whole line of books, and I put my hand on each book. Like, did you read this one? Did you read this one? Did you read this one? And we got to the one it had to do about skin color. And, I'm like, all right, let's go right through it. And we addressed it. We talked about it, and it was open with SEL, the training that we had. There's sometimes not closure. And there was a variety in the classroom. And, you know, I even compared, I'm like, you know, I'm Casper the Friendly Ghost. I said, but within my own family, we have different levels of color, you know, within my own family. So it was open. It was funny it was enjoyable and funny and a little scary, seeing the reaction of some kids, because there was a part in the book where they really got to like a very tricky subject. And it had to do with like how white went in and kind of like took over places. And, you know, in my head, you know, I'm keeping my resolve on the outside, but the inside, I'm like, oh, good God, there's going to be an email to the principal. But that's the opportunity that I do. I take it and I run with it as much as I possibly can. And then we also, we had the book called, I think it's Conquest. And it had to do, it's a new genre. It's imaginary historical fiction. So there is history in it. It's fiction because it's a story from a kid, and it's imaginary because it's not exactly true. And it's about a dream that this little boy had and what is perceived as what Columbus was. So I push it. I go through it.
That's great. How old? Your kids are elementary school, right?
I'm sorry?
Your kids are elementary school?
Right. I'm a special ed para in Mansfield Elementary School. I'm at the Goodwin campus this year.
Yeah, good. That's exciting that you're just doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, anybody else in doing anything? Margaret?
Well, did you address the DEI meeting? Did you and Janine go to that was at the school last week?
I wasn't even notified. I didn't know they had one. That's
Yeah,
frustrating.
they had one on this past Monday. I can't remember. It's like been a blur. And
It was October 3rd. Yeah.
Yeah, the next one is February 27th, I think. The next
Janine,
DEI.
will you pick me up and make sure I get informed about those? Because I'm supposed to go to those and I didn't know that one was happening.
Jane, neither did I. And, you know, and Peter, I work for Peter. So I asked to be put on the list, and I will ask for you to be put on the list too.
Thank you
I'll
very
ask
much.
his secretary, his admin to get you on.
Yeah, because the ones he did last year were wonderful, and I really do want to do more of that. So that's great. Okay, anybody else out there? Yeah, Esme, go ahead, unmute yourself.
So I know we talked about this a little bit last meeting, and we talked about it when the survey, the town survey came back to us. But I really do think we need to go back with the issues of like homophobia and derogatory language within the schools, because I know I've noticed, I think Felicia's noticed too, that it's become just like increasingly more prevalent.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's something we definitely need to circle back on.
Okay, well, let's put that on the agenda for next time. And do you have the data that you want to share, or do we need to look at the whole survey? That survey was good, but it was presented in a very complex way. And
Yeah.
what we need is the summary.
I would almost like propose going, I mean, this is my experience at EO, so I don't really know what it's like, but it's also coming in with the younger like class. So the people from MMS, from Ashford, from, you know, all the freshmen.
Mhm.
So I don't really know what the data would look like there, because I think it's different. But I would even propose going back in and having something specifically focused on the school.
Okay, Monica, can you get us that? We already have the survey, I think. Would it be a pain to send it out again?
I think I can find it. I should be able to do
Yeah.
that.
Because I will go through it. I remember it because I went through and summarized all the qualitative statements, and it was very clear what the problems were. And a lot of them at that time were in the middle school. There wasn't a whole lot about the high school. But let's do that, and then we'll put that on the agenda for next time and see what we think. And in the meanwhile, if there's anything happening that you think is an incident that we ought to know about, just let us know. And you can just send it around the email. Okay, thank you. Anybody else doing anything? I'm doing a workshop on Friday for interns at the Travelers Insurance on Culture and Communication. That is a 4-hour workshop, and once I get it going, I will be happy to do it for any organization that wants something about culture and communication. I will just show up with my little bag of tricks and get people to talk to each other. So put that on your agenda of resources. If you're needing anything like that, where in any environment that you happen to be in, I would be happy to do that. And I'll let you know how it goes. I think it'll be fun. All right, anything else? Any other member reports? Okay.
Is there anything with deliberation and discourse this year?
Amy,
Yes.
okay, go.
Sorry. So right now, I just got confirmation about this today. Thank you for reminding me. We have a speaker series with UConn's Eco House on sustainability, who are coming in October 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. I do have to, Margaret, I was actually going to email you about getting the message out. And I have to just check with Amy and check with Dr. DiLoretto that we're good for full town participation and not just within the school. But once I do, I'll get back to you.
Good. Felicia, any other things you want to say? No. Nonverbal communication here. Anybody else? Margaret.
You guys may have talked a little bit about this at the top of the meeting, but just sort of debriefing on the Celebrate Mansfield.
Oh,
I'm curious to know if folks, because everybody here took their turn at the table that day, whether that was a worthwhile initiative, the partnering with the NAACP, and whether it's worth trying to do some additional things with them. I'm just kind of curious what people's reactions were while it's all a little bit fresh.
Oh, well, I think it was really good that we were there, and I think we should do it every year. And there were people that came in that didn't know there was a Human Rights Commission, and now they know. I did get one message from Kathleen Tonry about she's working on immigrant rights with regard to affordable housing, and she'd like to be involved with anything that we have to do with affordable housing, or if we'd like to be involved in what she's doing, she wanted me to give you that information. I don't know, I think it was a good, I had a nice time there at the booth.
Yeah, I think it was very good for us to be there. Two things. One, I think we need a bigger banner. I love that Shannon brought the flags, because I thought that was nice. And I think we need a new activity. And we have plenty of time to think about a new activity. Although I saw a lot of little kids putting their little stickers up, and they seemed to really think that was cool. So that was good too. As far as the NAACP goes, I don't know. They're recruiting. I mean, they were there because they wanted to recruit young African-American people. I have no idea how successful they were, but their jump rope thing was fantastic.
Yeah.
They got lots of people doing jump rope. But they are like a civil rights litigation and prosecution organization. And they are out there trying to catch people who are doing nasty things to other people. And I'm not sure where the overlap is, but we can certainly continue to talk to them, and I get information from them all the time. So they're doing one educational event program this year that went down in the spring and is coming back again. They're going to start running a series of movies and podcasts and things like that, followed by discussions on Zoom. And they have had some very good movies, and everybody is invited. And sometimes we had up to 60 or 70 people on them. So when that starts to happen, I'll let you know, and we can help publicize that, because they've done some really good stuff about Japanese internment camps and Emmett Till and anti-Semitism and Jewish farmers in Eastern Connecticut, and just all kinds of very interesting things. Janine?
Yeah, that would be, if I also had information about that, maybe I could pass that along to like the PTO.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's
can
really,
put
they
that
do some very good
into-
educational stuff and very good guided discussions. So if I get any, I know they're working on it right now, so I'll let you know if anything is proposed and initiated, and anybody can come and we'll publicize it. Anybody else?
And then, so one other report that I'd like to make is we're operating the Mansfield Local Government Academy, which is a 12-session educational academy for 20 different residents who've made the commitment to be there every Thursday night. And I learned last week that the Human Services Director, Pat Schneider, is also assigned by the community to be our immigrant, there's a special title for it, but it has to do with being proponent and helping immigrant families. And that was, I didn't realize that there was such an earmark, that maybe it's something that's required in every community. Pat, unfortunately, is retiring in December. And so we are actively looking for a new department head for Human Services. But it occurs to me that once that person is hired and gets his or her feet under them a bit, that maybe, come March, we should be sure to be inviting that person in to talk about how, their view of how we can collaborate with Human Services, which is really providing some amazing basic housing, food, and other support services through youth, the senior center, and the Human Services Department. So I think that that's another department that we should be, of course, Katie is part of the youth services, but that whole, that immigrant need, I think is interesting. So that's something that
Yeah, and I think that Mansfield has made a commitment to support those people. So I think that would be really good to do. I think we're just going to have to wander around finding out what's needed where, and then figure out where we fit. But there's a lot that needs to be done as we think of it. So let's just think of it. And meanwhile, we'll get more information about the results of that survey that we did last year. And then we have to, I think I'd like to put on the agenda for next time a little bit about what your reaction to the affordable housing information, because that was just an overwhelming amount of technical data, and we need to let it settle and then figure out, do we have a role to play? Because it's going to be 1.5 years till anybody lives in these places. So we got plenty of time to think about that.
Well, the thing that stuck in my head was how little affordable housing we have for the numbers of people that need it.
Yeah, my whole thing is all the people who are in the janitorial staff and the cafeteria staff at UConn, which is lots of people, cannot afford to live in this town or send their kids to school here. And that's like the #1 group that I'm aware of, because those are the most, the numerous low-paying jobs in town. So I think we need to kind of focus on those kids, because we're talking about horrible things happening to people because they can't afford to live here. So maybe we don't need to wait until it all gets built. Maybe we need to take a look at some other stuff as well.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm very, I take pride in short and efficient meetings. So is there anybody who has anything else you want to share with all of us at the moment? So second Wednesday of the month. In the meanwhile, if anybody wants to communicate with me, always copy Monica, and then we'll circulate anything that we need, because communication is what I care about the most. And the more we do that, the better we're going to be at this. And Velda, I hope you feel better. Miss Velda is not feeling very well tonight, but she showed up anyhow, and I appreciate that. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in a month.